Today, I'm speaking with Melanie Bradshaw, Vice President Global Events for SeneGence, a direct sales company. Melanie has a wealth of experience in meetings and events. And this year, as everybody, she had to switch to virtual. And she learned a lot. She's sharing that with us today, as well as what to do when you're working abroad, as she's been working in 25 countries worldwide. Enjoy listening to Melanie. Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Business of Meeting podcast. I'm Eric Rosenberg, and today I'm extremely grateful to be speaking with Melanie Bradshaw. She is the Vice President Global Events for SeneGence, direct sales company, and she has a wealth of experience, and we'll be speaking about two main parts. The first one is her international experience because she's been working in more than 25 countries over the world, but also the virtual part. And she's been switching a lot of the meetings, most of us, to the virtual part. And what she shared already, I was absolutely blown away. And I'm sure that is going to be the same with you. So Melanie, thank you for taking the time today.
Thank you so much, Eric. I'm so pleased to be with you today.
Thank you. And, it's shifting time. You're in the office, then you have to be at home. And it's the lot of everyone. Can we maybe just start by asking you to share a little bit about your experience? How did you get into event? Because you have experience with universities, with corporate, bringing teams together, focusing on partnership. How did that start?
Well, it really happened to me, Eric. I was one of those people that attended university and, didn't quite know what my niche was going to be. And when I graduated, I took a job with the university that I graduated from with the events team, and just it fit. It fit so well. And I was really quickly locked into a role that I wasn't trained for. I didn't know what I was doing, but what I did know is that if I tried and if I was open to learning, I could figure it out. And so I had a patient boss who was open to working with me, and really grew into a role that I was titled with probably too early in my career, but it set me up for such a great era of just partnership success, new experiences. And I worked at that university for 10 years, overseeing all of the events and the summer camps and conference programs, and even facility maintenance and repairs and renovations. So a lot of that facility experience that I think probably as someone who's traveling the world planning events now, I have a soft spot for anyone that's in a facility or venue, a hotel, knowing what that other end is like. Mm-hmm. But leaving that university, I went to a company here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Oddly enough, we're ripe with different companies and industries that do international events, funnily enough. And so I worked for Penwell Corporation for 5 years. And I have to say that probably was a real turning point for me. And that's where the multiple countries that you mentioned earlier really came into play. I was blessed to be assigned to different industry events. I had to learn between power engineering and industry related to LED lighting. And then there's dental hygiene. So we were an event company who had publications associated with different industries. And as a centralized event service, we were kind of passed around and assigned to different industry events. And so that, again, just continued to broaden the horizon, open my eyes to the difference of working in different cities, different countries, different cultures, just meeting people all over the world who many are still friends to this day. So
that's
very,
awesome.
Very cool opportunity. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I totally concur with you. Being able to work in different countries and having friends all over the world, that's absolutely magic. Do you remember the first time you actually had to plan a meeting abroad and how you felt at that moment, assuming that you have not been doing that before?
I remember one of the biggest things that I learned from that, Eric, was having a realization that I just don't know everything, and that and that it's okay to ask questions. I think there was probably a time in my life that I wanted to be the one with all of the answers and just, but when you're going into a different country and a different culture and your expectations match where you're from, that's not fair to anybody. And I realized quickly when things wouldn't turn out my way, or maybe timelines are kind of a bit more fluid in Spain and Italy versus in Germany, even, those are the kinds of nuances that you pick up, and the change has to come back to you. Really you can pivot, you can adjust your expectations and still have a great partnership and work together. But I think just that's what I remember most, is probably coming to the realization that there's not one way to do things. And the quicker you align and understand with another culture and how other people do things, I mean, you're in their country, you're on their turf, right? You may as well align with what their expectations are. And then it makes them more open to what your expectations are. It works.
Absolutely. And I love the fact you already twice emphasized the importance of one, learning, and two, knowing that you don't know everything. And that, I think, it's a perfect mentality, not only if you have to work abroad, but in general, and progressing in life. Now, you mentioned in your resume that you've been over 25 countries. I saw that you work in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates, that you work in Beijing, in China.
Yes.
Did you have, for those who are listening now, that maybe is their first meeting in the future that they'll have to plan internationally, or they're just wondering what it is, did you have like a kind of checklist of elements that or partners, and how did you go about planning a meeting in a country where you've never been before?
Yes. Well, I was in that particular role. I was at that point had left Penwell, and I was with an oil and gas association. Again, a completely different dynamic, obviously, than corporate, different expectations, different goals, and that kind of thing. And in the oil and gas industry, working in key areas of the world like the Middle East and China, that even again opened new doors, opened my eyes to different things, and just a different way to even interact with people. I was really lucky, Eric, to have team members on the ground, event managers in each of those locations who actually reported up to me, but then also advised me. They were like my local guide. Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. And just, telling me, advising on things from what to wear and how to interact, as a female going into different situations and different meetings with different levels of leadership within the companies there. Yeah. It was such a benefit to me to have finding that local resource, having that local resource, and being able to take advice from people, because it made more sense to me to do it that way rather than the potential of making a fool of myself, which was still, I guess, on the table at various times. But I really tried to mind the local expectations of behavior and protocols, and learning that and studying it before I left certainly helped.
Yeah. And that's talking with somebody that has been also planning all over the world. I can relate to what you said, because that's been my life for 20 years. In discovering many different countries. But the thing that I keep learning is that I don't know, even if I assume. When we moved to the US with my family 7 years ago, there was this misunderstanding about a simple thing, like renting the right condo. The landlord keeps saying about the first floor. And I say, no, I have 3 kids. I have a little one. I don't want them to fall in the stairs. There's no way I'm going to take the first floor.
Yeah. Until
I realized that in Belgium, the first floor is actually here, the second floor, and that the first floor is actually the ground floor.
Yes.
It's those little, imagine, although you've traveled, if those little things like that can appear, what it means when working with culture and planning meetings there.
Well, and I do think too, Eric, I mean, and you've seen this as well, people appreciate that. When you can acknowledge and respect their culture and the way they do things. And again, I think then they're more apt to reciprocate that. True. And say, oh, well, you're from here, you wouldn't know, but we give you grace and that kind of thing. And it creates a much more open and pleasant experience all around.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for that. And then I also want to talk, obviously, today. That's how I reach out to you. I was absolutely amazed when you post about one of the virtual events that you ran. And I think that your experience, international experience, meetings and event experience, and then virtual experience, you are amazingly well positioned to teach people and share what you've learned along the way. So if we can start on that part with maybe the first question about creating, the virtual attendees experience. We always saying, and it's true, we when we meet, we change the world, and we are the people bringing people together. But how do you create that experience, that engagement online versus what you used to do in person? And maybe gives a little bit more context of what type of meeting it is.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we are at SeneGence. We do at least 4 annual training conferences. We weave in different incentive trips and opportunities, retreats, and higher level kind of sales achievement type events as well. But kind of the core of the event strategy is quarterly training conferences. And pre-COVID, we did those. We would run those simultaneously in all of the countries that we're operating, and from Australia to Canada, Mexico, the US, et cetera. So we would be running all of these kind of the same content, same structure, but just honing in and doing it regionally for all of our distributors to attend and be part of that. And I have to say, frankly, before COVID, we were not really open to virtual. We always recorded everything that we did, and then it would just go on file somewhere. Yeah. I don't know where, but somebody's got a massive hard drive with all of that on there. Great content, but it would only reach the people that were in the room. And so that's what we're continuing to do. So I'm lucky, actually. I'm really blessed, and I know that, to still be in the events industry and moving things forward. I know a lot of people, obviously our peers and colleagues who have had to, put things on pause, and they're looking at future dates and when are we bringing people back together. It just really isn't an option within our industry, meaning the direct selling industry. For anybody listening who is familiar with that industry, you do really have to stay in front of your field and in front of your distributors, because things are changing. You're constantly launching new product, and you're wanting to be in front of them all of the time, because these are basically self-employed people. They're entrepreneurs. And so it's very important to be a face in front of them. And for them, it's very important to come together. They get a lot just learning from each other, being together, networking, and all of those things. So recreating that has been an absolute challenge, Eric. And the core of that, of how we've been able to bring some kind of continued engagement, but make it really as intensive as possible, is try to keep as many of the same elements from live to virtual as possible. And what I mean by that is keeping the very same event structure. We've kept a 2.5-day event live to 2.5 days virtually. So they're still having all of the same experience. It's the same 9 to noon training, 1 hour for lunch, then the breakout sessions in the afternoon. So we've kept the actual kind of system in place, so to speak, the scheduling in place. We've tried to keep as many of the same faces from corporate in front of them, again, consistently. And then we have those familiar elements of the branding that we bring in too. And we've really tried to take it a major step forward in regards to the content that we're putting out there. Everything has the branding. Everything is at the level of production excellence, even though it's virtual, that it would be when they're live. Our DJ that's always with us live at our events, he's on our virtual, he's there with us. And so he's part of the virtual experience. They see him. It's familiar. I think that we're trying to create that familiarity and make it still feel like we're all coming together, even though we're doing it from our homes. So Those are the elements we've really tried to keep consistent.
I understand. Now, when you say, for instance, 9 to 12 training, Did you adapt somehow something in the length or in the delivery when you switched to virtual? And also, what type of engagement IDs did you bring with all the audience?
Well, we've done some various things. So we've created intentional kind of stretch and activity breaks to break up some of that time, because again, we know that they are sitting at home, and it's more difficult to concentrate when you don't have people right beside you,
right,
forcing you
so
to.
You do what? Sorry for interrupting, but you do what? 45 minutes, 50 minutes, 40 minutes?
We do like a 5 to 10 minute break, and it's built into the agenda. So they know when they're going to be able to, go reheat their coffee or go grab a snack or go to the bathroom. But then we expect them to be, come back and be locked and loaded and ready to continue to absorb and learn. So we try to make a structure that's very clear, really communicate the agenda. And when we first started out, Eric, what we did was like the night before, that we did like a happy hour, a 30-minute, we called it the pre-event Hype It Up party. It was 30 minutes. First of all, chance to test our technology, because I didn't know what I was doing. Is this the right platform? Oh my gosh, we've never used it before. So we were like, okay, well, let's come together. Let's play some music, DJs here, have fun. But also we prepared them for the experience. We used the 30 minutes to say, here's what it's going to be like. Here's the expectation. If you have to pull away, you can see this in replay, so they understood how long they had to watch it in replay and what that experience looked like. We walked them through all of the digital downloads and the resources that we had loaded into our platform, things that we would normally hand them at the reg counter, they had to find within the virtual platform. And that's where we put all the fun stuff too, to get them engaged and get them excited. So we're almost completely female driven, and we love our photos. We love our selfies. So we loaded, fun little blurbs and things and sayings and, hashtag boss babe, kind of fun stuff that they could print out, and then they share with each other. And then we have the social media engagement that way. We use a ton of hashtags. They win prizes, so we're still doing, again, all of those things that we do when they're with us live. So we've been really intentional about telling them, here's what we expect from you as a virtual attendee. Everybody knows how to attend a live event. Do we know how to attend one virtually? And because it's a long day. And we've also, one other little tidbit that I think has been fun is we've included things for their kids to do. Oh. So in the downloads, we've handcrafted coloring pages with our logo and some of our products in them, so that the kids are, they're occupied with these very detailed coloring sheets. And, those kinds of things only last a few minutes sometimes, depending on the age of the children. But, we send them little do not disturb signs to hang on their door that their kids have colored. And so the kids know, mommy's training, this is mommy's business. She's doing her thing and setting that example for them too. But they're kind of involved because it's fun stuff for them, and they feel like that they're part of it because it's something we've sent them to.
Oh, that's awesome. You were mentioning the platform and production. One of the things that I've heard a lot this year from people that are meeting professionals is, I have to learn to put to organize the online meeting. And I kind of disagree with that. I think they have to learn to design maybe a different way. But the production is the same thing. You're not going to go behind the AV production when it comes to a live event. And I believe it's the same for online. So what are your thoughts of that? And how did you manage to find the right partner?
Well, we are continuing to use our production partner that we would use for our live events. So that relationship is already there. We already speak the same language, and they already know what my expectations are. What we did then mutually from there is find the virtual platform that fit for us. And frankly, Eric, I just at the kind of the beginning, the April-May timeframe, I paid to attend some larger name virtual events that were out there, because there were some people that right off the bat were out there doing it. It was almost like they knew what was coming and they'd probably already been doing that somewhat at the beginning. So I just tried to be an attendee at some virtual events that might have some elements of things that I could learn from, borrow, and that kind of thing. So I kind of became a student of it. And if there was one in particular that I had a really great experience as an attendee with, the engagement platform, the little chat, all of that. I thought, well, this should work. So my production team and I investigated that platform further. And now we've been partnering with that platform. So we went directly to that group, and they're helping us build our website every time. We're using their platform every time. And right now we are locked into that partnership, because at this point, I kind of feel like there's no turning back. I don't know if I can actually pause and go learn something new. I know this one now, and it's been hard. It's been really challenging to learn, because you don't want to put something in front of your audience that you haven't experienced yourself.
Right.
There's just too many unknowns. And so I think my events team has probably been stretched to the max, because I know I have. As you're trying to think ahead, we know what to expect from live events. We've all done it for so long. You really have to think ahead with virtual. And that's where, kind of the attendee experience piece comes in, because keeping people engaged is difficult.
Right. And so one of the aspects that you mentioned to me earlier on that you work on is the registration packages, for instance, when it comes to the experience of what did you change? What did you do that people can learn from you when it comes to that aspect of the journey?
Well, for the most part, there's not just one registration choice. So depending on the event that you're registering with us for, we've tiered the packages. And because there are some people who want less engagement, and they want to just log in, watch it once and move on. They don't want, replay. They don't want, special access and things like that. So we go from like day of only, very inexpensive, kind of like a $40 package for 2 days of content, but you have to log in when it's live and watch it, and then you're done. Then we tier up to, well, now you've got a swag box delivered to your home before the event, and it has anything from product to props that they can engage with during the event. When we're launching product or whatever, where we're truly live and we're bringing them up on screen and that kind of thing, they're wearing the earrings that we've sent them, or they're wearing, the product that we've sent. So you pay more to get the swag box, but it creates that more fun experience. We also, in the top tier packages, we include VIP access to specific training. So, you pay more to get even more content, whether it's like a private Q&A with the keynote, or just a little extra something from corporate that they can engage with and learn from. It complements, because it drives their business forward. It helps them with their sales. It helps them, with what we need it to help them with. But then it keeps that engagement and that fun and that learning and things like that going forward. So being creative with the packaging of what's included in each registration type, we've tried to tier it so that if because I think some of our attendees, honestly, Eric, they might be virtual now forever.
Really?
I think they may choose that, because it's so convenient now for them to not have to pay for we also have attendees that pay for out of their own pocket for their travel, but it's not a typical corporate experience where you're charging all of that back to the company. Mm-hmm. So they're going to pay for their own hotel, they'll pay for their own flight and all of their F&B in between. And so now if they can do that from the comfort of their own home, I think we're going to be able to broaden our audience, and reach a lot more people with what we're doing.
Very interesting. It's like the first time they were broadcasting a football game in the stadium. People say, "Oh, it's going to kill the sports." Absolutely not. It did exactly what you're talking about, is broadening the audience and getting more people. So on that note, what are you looking for in the future? Assuming that COVID is now managed, that we have the vaccine well distributed, that people are going back to live events and without mask, or what are you looking for in the future in terms of the balance between the virtual part and the online part and the live part, the face-to-face part?
Yeah, we're planning. We have one more completely virtual event in January, and then we're planning to go hybrid in April. And so that those who want to and are ready can come together live. And we're limiting the capacity. So we're definitely creating scarcity, but we also don't feel comfortable opening up to a huge audience at this point in case we have to go back to completely virtual. We've done that now like 3 times and it's a lot, as you know. So we are going hybrid, we assume, with very low live numbers. So hopefully then that will sell out. That will create a really great experience for the ones who do want to come together live, because I have to say, at least with our audience, there are so many, the majority do want to come together. They are just dying to see each other, and they're really, really looking forward to being together physically. And again, that networking and that socializing that you just can't do virtually. So I think we'll presumably we'll sell out of that experience. But also what they're going to get is, now we've elevated the virtual experience without even realizing it. I thought, well, this will happen once and then we'll go back to live events. Well, now you just have to keep raising the bar, right? Because our live experiences were fabulous, and now your virtual experiences are amazing. So everything has to continue to be elevated. But what we can do then is give the best live experience possible. So these virtually, you can't attend, the ancillary events that are the fun parties, the dance party with the refreshments and all of that kind of stuff. We can't replicate that in a virtual sense. So that's not even going to be available if you're only a virtual attendee. Right. So then once again, it segments the registration option, and you continue to tier up. And so that the live experience becomes the ultimate experience. And it's where you can get the full, the full picture, the full experience, the full everything. So that's how we're planning to do it, is just to make, again, still the virtual experience now has to remain amazing, but only those who really want to stay in that virtual world will have to, and those who want to come live can do that.
So if I understand you well, assuming that things are becoming normal, I don't know why. I don't want to use the word normal, but let's say that we go back into in person. So you're not looking at having specific just online events and just in person, but you're looking at a mix of hybrid for most of your event, except of course for incentive trips. Forget to do it online. Is that how you look at it?
Yes, definitely. And we're hoping to pick back up our incentive trips in June. So we've been doing cash payouts. That's, for whatever reason, getting old to people. If you can imagine getting cash in for that. But people, again, they want experiences. They want to come together, and they're realizing the value of that over money. And so January, so next month, we should have been going to Bora Bora. So we are creating a fun, at least a virtual kind of reception with that. We're sending out the cocktail mix so that we can all come online and, at least cheers to the fact that they achieved that opportunity. But in June, we, fingers crossed, will be back to an incentive experience live, because I don't personally want to meet the challenge of trying to create a virtual incentive experience or trying to replicate that. I can't imagine that as much as I can with the training conferences.
I did incentive trip for, actually my first company was called Ins and Tyve, which in French and Dutch reads incentive. Mm-hmm. So that's what I was doing 100% of the time. I think that going there is over the limit of what virtual can ever achieve. And it's not only you're talking about Bora Bora. It's not only being in a beautiful destination and in a fabulous hotel. It's really experiencing a moment that you cannot duplicate if you go back with your family and your friends, as you know. Yeah. And that is something you cannot bring online. That's impossible.
No, I don't. I'm hoping that I don't have to try to tackle that one, because I'm kind of tapped out of ideas. I feel like my creative juices have had to be tapped this year. But I joke about that though, because I'm very thankful to be with a company that is challenged to continue to provide these events and continue to move forward, because it is an opportunity to share the knowledge with the rest of the industry. And so when anybody needs to tap into that, I can at least say, well, this was painful, don't do this. This worked, it may work for you, kind of thing. I think we get our best knowledge from each other. And that's why I love that you're doing these podcasts. It's amazing because we all learn so much from each other, and what better resource do we have?
Yeah, thank you. Now, is it easier or more complicated, or is the same challenges to plan a virtual event or a live event?
Well, I think right now I would say it's more difficult to do virtual.
Why so? Okay, can you explain a bit more, and maybe also how you structure your team to achieve that?
That has been a challenge as well, Eric, because we have our event managers who have typically been overseeing their own event assigned to their own country. So they're all planning simultaneously, but independent of each other. And they all have the basic theme and things like that. So now that's bringing that group together and saying, okay, you're part of this one global virtual event. So that has been a challenge and an opportunity for our team to work together in completely new ways. So really dividing out the responsibilities and frankly, understanding what all of the responsibilities are now. My previous timeline and checklist for our events kind of goes out the window. I had to recreate that, and we had to think through what the new experience is and who's gonna do it, who's gonna fulfill it, and we're creating stuff from scratch. So that has been challenging, but I think too, I do feel, especially having done now 3 virtual events, and now we're coming into our 4th in January, there does become a sense of repetitiveness, I think, to the attendee, and a slight boredom, because let's be honest, we're not the only virtual event they're attending. Our audience is the same group that's going to try to, tap into Tony Robbins and Eric Worre, and they're doing this a lot. So it's not just our event every 3 months. And that makes it harder. They're more difficult to please. And if there's anything that we want to do in the events industry is please our attendees and meet their expectations. So I think that's the biggest challenge, not knowing everything that we need, creating stuff from scratch. We're constantly trialing new things. And then as soon as we think that we've communicated everything, a round of questions come up and we're like, well, we didn't think of that. So let's figure that out. I think it's been really challenging, a major growth opportunity, I'll have to say, because I've learned so much that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to learn, but it's been hard.
I can imagine if you're competing. I mean, if you're competing with the same audience as Tony Robbins, that's I don't think you can put the bar higher than that. So
I know. Well, you saw on LinkedIn, we built that giant wall. That's what we were trying to do. We're trying to be like Tony, and it works. He's getting a great audience, and our audience loved that because they love to be able to feel like they're engaging. They at our live events, they interact with our CEO and our executive team. So they still had the chance to do that, albeit virtually.
And talking about reinventing yourself and always being the leader, what he's doing, it's absolutely phenomenal in his career. So that's it's good for you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, see, you borrow, you see what other people are doing. And so we're all doing that with each other. And that's why the more information that's out there, the better, because there's something fun to borrow or steal.
That's true. And learning all the time.
Absolutely.
Melanie, that has been a pleasure talking to you. Congratulations on everything you've been doing this year.
Eric.
And changing and adapting and training your team. I have no doubt that January is going to be another great success. I assume that deep insight, you can wait for the incentive trip part to be live again, right?
Very excited for it. I can't wait.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you, Eric. Bye.
Thank you, Melanie, for sharing your experience with us, and congratulations for switching your main meeting online. That was very educative, and you brought a lot of good points to think about, to engage people, to make sure that you're delivering on the objective for the company. And I wish you incentive trip live sooner rather than later. Thank you again for taking the time. If you want to join our Facebook group, www.eventbusinessformula.com/group if you are a business owner in our industry or interested to see what's happening. And you can also link up with me on LinkedIn. Thank you. Bye-bye.